Welcome to the show, guys. Happy end of January. Got an exciting episode here for you. We're continuing on with the offseason fantasy football content as we're watching NFL playoffs. We are talking about trust or bust, or trust, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, I've got three wide receivers here for you that finished top 10 amongst wide receivers last year in 2023. How are they going to do in 2024? Because if they finished on top, they're going to be high draft capital. The big question is, should you trust them or will they bust? That's a big question. You got to answer it because we see it all the time. Players that finish on top one year, fall the year after. So we're going to discuss it, and I want to make this interactive, so make sure you guys leave some comments and feedback. And we're adopting the Lion mentality this year. This is the year of the Lion mentality. So smash that thumbs up and drop a comment below. A Lion smash thumbs up, guys. Want to make this interactive, and let me know after I name these three wide receivers and I go over the detail and the analytics and the numbers and what I'm feeling right now in the offseason. It's very early. It's January. This thing could definitely change. I want to know what you guys think in the comments as well. So drop it below, guys. Fantasy football does not end here. And of course, you can always join the Patreon group, patreon.com/FF Counselor for direct access to me, exclusive information. Discounts off course, a 16-round pre-order. Be the first eligible for that and get a discount. So make sure you guys dive in, patreon.com/FF Counselor. Join the Lion community in the front lines. That's where it's at. All right, guys? Again, comment, thumbs up. Let's dive into this. The first wide receiver, okay? Let's talk about Puka Nacua, right? Puka Nacua, right? Amazing year. Absolutely amazing year. And when you look at his numbers, fourth in PPR. Phenomenal, okay? Just under 300 points. Amazing. This is a guy that came in as a round 5 pick. Nobody expected this, not even myself. Like, he came out of absolutely nowhere. What I did expect is Cooper Kupp not to be a first-round pick. Cooper Kupp was a guy that everybody was riding. And I said Cooper Kupp had one good year, maybe two his entire career. His best year was back in 2021 when they won the Super Bowl. And things change, players decline, things happen. And I said, do not draft Cooper Kupp. Sure enough, Cooper Kupp busted, and in comes Puka Nacua. Now, Cooper Kupp did not play the entire season. He played 12 games, all something to consider. Let's go over Puka's stats here, okay? Breaking records here. 1486 receiving. This is regular season. 6 touchdowns, 105 receptions on 160 targets. You contrast that with Cooper Kupp, who only had 95 targets on the year. So if you look at it, Puka's a wide receiver 1 here. Okay, but Cooper Kupp only played 12 games. That's something to consider. Now, you got to take a look at who's throwing the ball. Matt Stafford, he's an older quarterback who, again, had his last hurrah, won the Super Bowl, okay? A couple years ago, finally, did nothing in Detroit, then ends up winning a Super Bowl, right? After the team, everything was set, with the Rams. So he only had 24 touchdowns this past season, 11 interceptions, not the greatest, 92 passer rating, 92 and a bit. So you got to take a look at all these variables. And then most importantly, got to take a look at the NFL draft, what's going to happen in the draft. But again, we're talking offseason. That's why we're just kind of laying the foundation so that we have this information. We're kind of having it in our subconscious mind and have it in the back of our mind to know, okay, well, am I drafting Puka? Well, I know this information. Stafford, 92 passer rating, Kupp missed 12 games. How much is left in the tank? Now, that being said, Puka's an outstanding player. The fact that he came in as a 5th-round pick and he did, pretty decent, down the stretch there, and just looked amazing on some catches. Just looked amazing all year, right? He's got heart. His yards after catch were pretty amazing. He proved that he can and should be the wide receiver 1. The big question is where is he going to fall? Now, I've been seeing some of the consensus Chiefs mock drafts, and this guy is not coming off in the top 10 picks. I'm getting a feeling that he's going to be an early 2nd-round pick. That's the initial thought. And at that point, he may be worth the squeeze. Is the juice worth the squeeze? I got to see it. I got to kind of feel out what's going on with Cooper Kupp. Do we have any reports on where his mental state is at? Is he going to be in a state where he's, is he healthy? Is he physically healthy? Is he mentally good? Like, you're going to you hear certain things with players. Yeah, I'm going to be 31. Like, Cooper Kupp's going to be 31 next year. little things like, oh, I'm going to, maybe I'm going to retire. What? Once you start getting inkling that there's a regression or some sort of word out, then they're probably going to decline, right? A 31-year-old wide receiver, I could care a lot. I'm never drafting a 31-year, wide receiver, 31-year-old. I go for the youth. I go for the upside. I go for the talent, and Puka's got it. Again, we got to take a look at the situation with Stafford and, of course, Cooper Kupp. Again, I look at all the variables, and I got to take a look at where the ADP is going to be, and then I'm going to make an executive decision. But as of right now, love the talent. I'm all for the guy. I love him. I think he's great. I think he's a great player. Is the volume going to continue? The 12 games of Cooper Kupp? If Cooper Kupp stays healthy all season, it may dip into that because, again, he was the wide receiver one for years. Is he going to bow out? That's the biggest question. We saw Puka take over this past year, but I don't want to overpay. That's the big question, okay? So Puka Nacua, Buster, trust or bust? I think I trust him at the right ADP. I got to be really, really cautious here. Talent, upside, youth, all the variables are there. Will he have this type of year? Probably not, but that's something to look at, okay? Second player, now this is going to be a lot of hype around this guy, is CeeDee Lamb. This is very important we have this discussion here because CeeDee Lamb is going to be a top 3 pick this year. This is without a doubt. I already saw mock drafts. He's going to be the guy. Now, if you look at his stats, and if there's a chart I could extrapolate, there's a constant trend upwards. So it's a natural progression to the top, which, again, happened, okay? But I look at his numbers. Number 1 in targets, 181. Number 1 in receptions, 135. Number 2 in receiving yards, 1749, with 12 touchdowns and 403.2 fantasy points. To duplicate this, I can almost guarantee a 99% chance it's not going to happen. So understand a regression will incur. It's going to happen, right? Now, if you look at his targets over the past 4 years, 74 in his rookie year, right? 79 targets, 107 and 135. This is very important, okay? 135 was his peak reception. I apologize. 74 receptions, 79, 107 and 135. So 135 receptions this past year compared to the 107 before and 79 before that. It's a natural, nice progression, but a big spike here in the year 4. He was a 2020 round 1 pick. So they drafted high capital, high expectations for him, but it took him 4 years to get to where he's at. Personally, for me, I know there's going to be a regression. And again, Dak Prescott fell apart in the playoffs. I don't know if I trust Dak. I think he's good. I just don't think he's outstanding. We're going to have to see what they do in the draft. What are they going to do with that running game? They didn't have a true running back, right? I told you, Tony Pollard is not a true running back. He's not a true workhorse. He can't be trusted. And that's a big thing for me, right? When they don't have a running back, they had Nico Dowell or whatever his name is. He's okay. He's good. But if you have a true workhorse running back, you're going to start looking at running the ball a little bit more. And I think that's what they may do this upcoming year. Dak, not really sold on that whole thing. To me, I think he's going to be way too expensive. 1 out of 4 years where he finishes as high as he did in regards to fantasy points. Now, if you look at the difference between 2020 and 2021 for fantasy points, this is about a 100-point difference. Okay, that's massive. 301 PPR points in 2022. 2023, 403. That's a huge jump. There's 100 points there. So, this was a pinnacle, massive year. Again, like I said, number 1 in many categories, including receptions, targets, and number 2 in receiving yards. It's very, very hard to duplicate, and we know that. I know it's common sense. But for me, and that reason alone, that he's coming off this pinnacle year, amazing year, I don't trust Dak. They're going to implement more of a running game next year because they didn't have a running back. All of these variables, and the fact that I'm going running back round 1 anyway, is an out for me for CeeDee Lamb. I think a lot of people are going to be overpaying for him. I think a lot of people are going to be upset because he's not going to have the year that he had now. Now, if you also looked at the playoff game that they played, they weren't connecting very well. They had a lot of miscommunication going when crunch time happened. Is that going to linger over into next year? Who knows? I mean, CeeDee Lamb had a great season. I just don't think it's going to be anywhere near. I think he finishes in, fantasy points wise, 320 points next year, which again is solid. You're going to get a good ROI. But is he also going to stay healthy? That's all big question marks. What goes up typically comes down. So again, for me, I'm not going to trust him. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, okay? Third player here, Keenan Allen, okay? He's going to be 32 years old next year, okay? I didn't trust him this year, and I'm glad I did not. Now, mind you, I get a lot of criticism because I was on the Quentin Johnson train. When you draft a guy in the first round, you're supposed to use him. He was not used. He was not utilized. He did not play where he should have. Again, I think a big part of that was targets weren't there. Quentin Johnson should have been the man. Mike Williams went down, couldn't trust him. Josh Palmer dealt with his knee injury, concussions, that type of thing. So a lot of banged up team. Eckler went down. I told you to avoid Eckler. At this point, this offense is very hard to trust. I think they got to make some moves on offensive coordinator. I think the coaching's something's got to happen here, okay? But you got to understand that Keenan Allen finishes a top 10 receiver, and I think a lot of people are going to want to draft him, thinking that the same thing's going to happen. But you got to understand you only played 13 games and missed your last 3 games of fantasy football. Week 14 and after, non-existent, got hurt, right? And that's to be expected from a guy who's shown injuries in the past and is 32 years old. Just not worth trusting. Understand he was a 3rd-round pick back in 2013. He's not a young guy. I don't trust him. But when you look at a guy like Josh Palmer, who again isn't really outstanding, but if given the volume can be really good. He was also a 3rd-round pick just like 10 years after. So 10, 12 years after, whatever. So again, I look at Keenan Allen, had a great year, minus the 3 games he missed, right? 150 targets, 108 receptions, whatever, 7 touchdowns, 1,200 plus yards, receiving. Great year. But I can't trust a guy who's 32 years old who missed 3 games when I needed him the most in the playoffs. And again, is he going to be expensive? That's a big question. What's his ADP? That's going to play a factor. But for me personally, staying away again. And I'm glad I did this past year, okay? I'm glad I stashed Quentin and he busted over grabbing, Keenan Allen and then him missing the 3 most important games of my season, which are the playoffs. So yeah, Keenan Allen's a no for me, but I want to know what you guys think. Are you interested? So as of right now, out of these 3, Puka, CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen, I think they're going to be high draft capital, but I think Puka's got the highest ceiling, young, hungry, dynamic, and more to be had here out of all these guys. And again, CeeDee will be far more expensive than Puka this year as well, based on his last year, the copy and paste BS. All right. So if this is making sense to you, the breakdowns, draft, smash a thumbs up if I brought you some value here, and make sure you guys stay glued in. Turn on that bell because I'm going to be releasing 16 rounds in about a month or so, and I want you guys to be getting on pre-orders for that. Okay, guys. So I'm excited. Fantasy football 2024. We are full flow, guys. Fantasy doesn't stop here. Hope you're enjoying the NFL playoffs. Subscribe, thumbs up, and follow on socials for my up-to-date news and information as well. I'm going to be dropping news here as well, too. All right, guys, I appreciate you. I'm out.